What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and I'm already laughing because we're here to talk about the Game Awards Player's Voice, and I thought something like this could happen. I had a feeling, and what we have here is 10 games that made it through, right? So up until this point, you had 30 games you could vote for. I think you could vote for up to 10. I actually did. I normally don't participate in these things, but I voted for my 10, and the final 10 have been revealed, and it honestly is laughably bad. And look, a couple things just to say, before we start to get into like why is it actually bad, at least in my opinion. Well, that's kind of a main point to this. This is just my opinion. It really continues to boil down to what I always say: make your own decisions, right? Like, I'm not saying everybody has to have their own freaking Game Awards show, okay? Like, I'm gonna have my own Game Awards, at the end of this month on the channel. It's looking pretty good. I hope you guys are excited for it and ready for it. Basically, it's just have your own thoughts on these games, right? Don't let the Game Awards tell you that one game is the greatest game of all time if you don't think that it is, right? Like, just hold your own opinion. That's all I'm asking for. And the reason I've always said that is because, all of these awards, except for this one, comes down to journalists, right? They have like 90-10. 10% I think does come through our voting. You can vote in any category, but I think that only counts for 10%. Ultimately, a panel of journalists that you might agree or not agree with on a day-to-day basis on Twitter, on their reviews for games, all that stuff. They're the ones picking these choices, right? They're the ones who nominated them in the first place, and they're the ones that are picking the winner. So, if you don't want to go buy it, don't go buy it. I certainly do not go buy it anyway. Again, we've talked about this before. I don't want to harp on it too much. Let me say, though, I'm honestly disappointed because when they do give us a category of just us, just the community, we blow it. We freaking blow. Now, okay, one final thing to say before we start to analyze it. Again, how seriously am I really taking it? It gets one video. I'm going to talk about it, tear it to pieces, and then move on with my life. I have my own awards. I have my own games that are going to win these awards. I ultimately do not care what millions of people online. I mean, maybe that's hypocritical because I do, this YouTube stuff, but I don't care what makes it to number 1. I don't really care what makes it to number 10. It doesn't stick with me beyond, maybe the next like 5-10 minutes. Okay. Just for clarification, because people are going to say, Alex, you care too much. I really don't. I'm doing it because this is fun. And so let's look at it. So these are the 10 games that made it. Black Myth, Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, Zenless Zone Zero, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, Metaphor ReFantazio, Stellar Blade, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Palworld, Helldivers 2. Now, not all of them are bad, okay? I think as a whole, people have let me down, but I think just in general, whatever. Like, I think games that do deserve to be here are here. Okay, and let's just go through every one. Black Myth Wukong deserves to be there. Metaphor deserves to be there. Stellar Blade deserves to be there. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth deserves to be there. Palworld, I will say maybe controversially, I would not put it there. Again, like I'm going to do a ranking video and all this stuff on games that I've played. I would not do it, but I can get it. This is not one. I'm not going to flip out. I'm not going to burn the channel down or anything like that because Palworld is here, okay? Doesn't mean that much to me. Palworld, I can get it. Helldivers 2, I can get it, okay? So like this L, this, backwards L or just like long-shaped L, those 6 games, I understand it. This top row, let's go through these. Okay, let's start from I'm just going all over the freaking place in this. Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. We've talked about this. It got its own video. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, but obviously people... Here's the thing. People ultimately just don't care, and I guess that's fine. It's just... It actually almost makes my point because, when I made the video like a month ago or whenever it was, talking about, DLC... Let me just say this, just in case anybody in the back, forgot that I said it. A DLC should not be, a nomination for Game of the Year. Should not. We're going to get to something else that shouldn't be Game of the Year in a second because it's even more laughable, in my opinion, than Elden Ring, but DLC should not make it. Now, I think that's just the way it should be. From a panel, from you want to be like the Oscars, you want to be the Emmys, you want to be the Game Awards, you don't have DLC be a candidate for Game of the Year. You have it be its own standalone thing. You have it be its own nomination category, or just its own category in general. DLC remasters, whatever you want to say, they can be in their own category, okay? So that's one thing I've always said. Again, I kind of said it for the journalists. I didn't actually think people would vote for it. This is one that kind of surprised me, kind kind of didn't. Like, once it was there, when I saw it as part of the 30, I was like, okay, this is probably going to make it to the top 10. I just didn't want it to, just because of, what we've talked about. Okay, let's go over the next game. Actually, the one that is the most laughable, I think, on this entire list, Genshin Impact. And this is no slight against it. I don't care. This is a situation I truly just do not care. I've never played it. I do actually have a desire to play. I've just never played it. I know it's popular. I know what it is, all of that jazz, okay? It's as simple as this. This game came out 4 years ago. Think September of 2020. This game should not be here. This game didn't come out this year. Why in God's good name should it be nominated? I mean, okay, seriously, take a few steps back. A game that came out in 2020, would you ever say is Game of the Year of 2024? Now, I know what some people will say. Well, Alex, because some of the more like critically, heavy people, which is fine. Again, everybody's got their own opinion. I have seen comments where people say, it sucks that this year has been so bad that a DLC might win Game of the Year. And it's like, that is funny. That is a good comment. Like, overall, I get that angle. But I don't agree with it. I understand it. I get it. I don't agree with it. It's not been that bad of a year that a DLC should win. That's my very strong, forceful opinion on that. So for people that want to say, oh, well, it's been so bad that, DLC to a game that's going to win Game of the Year. There's games that deserve to win Game of the Year, guys. I'm sorry. Like, there's other games I think that deserve it. And let me say the same thing for Genshin Impact. I know people have said it's a good game. I don't doubt that one bit. Again, I don't have a bone to pick with this game, but the game came out 4 goddamn years ago. Why is it here? You're seriously telling me, and this is, you could say, well, again, why is it such a big deal to make a video on it? Well, what about the games that didn't make it? Do you notice that Astrobot is not here? Astrobot, for those that have played it, I feel like is kind of a unanimous top 5 game of the year. Everybody that I've seen, now, maybe you can prove me wrong. You tell me you've played Astrobot and you hate it. Be the contrarian. That's okay. But the point is, are you really going to make the point that Elden Ring, a DLC, or Genshin Impact, a 4-year-old game, deserves to beat, especially Genshin Impact? It didn't even come out this year. You're telling me that game deserves to beat Astrobot, or deserves to beat Silent Hill, or Silent Hill, you could say, well, it's a remake. Well, I mean, I have said this before. I think its story should not be nominated. I think I was actually kind of controversial on that. The story of Silent Hill 2 is still the story of Silent Hill 2. Therefore, it's not new. It came out in 2001, not 2024. So I actually am in agreement that shouldn't be, if you agree to that. I don't think the story of Silent Hill 2 should be nominated. But I think pretty much anything else could be a nomination because it is a new game. In so many ways, it's been like reimagined. So I stand by that. I stand by that for Final Fantasy. So much of Final Fantasy is different. So it really is a brand new game in that right. Genshin Impact's not a new game. Sure, there's like updates and expansions, but it's not a new game. It came out 4 years ago. Why does that get to beat Dragon Ball, Silent Hill, Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, which is one of the best games that came out this year? It wasn't even a choice in the original 30. Of the 30 games, Banisher's was not even on that list. I mean, again, this is why this whole thing to me is just silly. So those are the 2 main ones, Elden Ring, Genshin Impact. The other 2, Wuthering Waves, and then Zenless Zone Zero. So this Wuthering Waves, and hopefully I'm saying that, I sound like kind of stupid every time I say it. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. I've never heard of that game. Now, I did watch a quick video before I hit record here. It actually doesn't look bad at all. It actually kind of looks a little fun. They're not games that are up my alley, so I'm not going to spend 20 minutes, bashing them because, again, I don't play them. They're not for me. I don't really think that's fair to them. What I will say, they're both open world, free to play, like MMO type thing situations, and they seem like they're both gacha games. Now, that's one thing I can speak to. Not a big fan of gacha games in general. It is weird that, I mean, I don't know if Genshin Impact is like the exact same as those 2. I feel like Genshin Impact is probably a superior version than those 2, but those 2 games seem to be almost identical in terms of the genre that they're in, what they're trying to do, what the gacha kind of elements of them as well. Seems like a lot of that is almost exactly the same. So I don't want to spend too much time talking about it. I think I spent the most time probably talking about Genshin Impact, but I got to be real. Like, those 4, Maybe not those two, just simply because I don't feel comfortable talking. Like, I don't want to be the authority. I try not to be. I try to just be me, and you can listen to me or not listen to me. I don't know enough about those games to say, well, obviously, clearly, they don't deserve to be here. I do know, based off playing specifically, in my opinion, Silent Hill and Astro, those games deserve to be here. Banishers, that wasn't even on the list in the first place, deserves to be here. Where's Infinite Wealth? Infinite Wealth is not a top 10 game, I think, to me. I'd have to look at my list. It's probably on the outskirts, maybe 9 through 12. It probably deserves to be here over some of these. Dragon Ball, I mean, you can probably keep going. I could probably think of one or two more. You know what I mean? I just, those four specifically, Genshin Impact and Shadow of the Erdtree, it's laughable. And now I think we go down to 5 or something. I think it's 10-5, and then it's 5 to the winner. Again, this is kind of where it starts and stops. Ultimately, there will be a top 5. There will be a winner. I'm probably not going to agree with the winner. That's fine. It's just, I wanted to make the video kind of calling out, and maybe not even people's, it's not even their fault. Ultimately, I don't think Shadow of the Erdtree should have been on the list in the first place. I don't think it should have counted. Genshin Impact shouldn't have counted. And I forget. I voted the 10. I swear to God, I voted for the 10. I don't think No Man's Sky was on, but No Man's Sky got that massive update a few months back. It's a game that's evolved for so many years. Was that on the list? Because that game is still, it's almost like ongoing games count, and that's why you have its own category. It almost boils down to the central problems that I still have with these nominations in general. The categories are kind of broken. And when you're doing a game of the year voted on by the people, that's fine. And in fact, actually, that's kind of cool. You got to be careful about different types of games. Because then again, you have to consider DLCs and remasters. That's a finicky area. What do you want to do with that? And then any game that's ongoing, which is literally Genshin Impact. Now, I did check, those other 2 games did come out this year, but if it's a game that's still going on this year, well, I have news. There's actually 2 other categories, ongoing and one other, best community or something. There's 2 categories in the freaking Game Awards that give awards to games that are literally still happening. That's the whole point of those nominations. Again, do those games, are we gonna give, what about games that are just good, Kingdom Hearts 2? Let's just pick a game off the top of the noggin. I love Kingdom Hearts 2. Is it better than some games that came out this year? It sure is. Not all of them, but it sure is better than a lot of them. Well, does that deserve Game of the Year? Because it's a game. It exists in the year of 2024, but it didn't come out this year, but you can still play it, so I guess it deserves to be on. It's how far, I know I'm reaching, right? Because that's a 20-year-old game, 18 maybe, something around that range. I know I'm reaching, but how far do we want to push how stupid this is? I guess that's how I want to leave it. I know that's an exaggeration, but we're doing it with games that are almost half a freaking decade old, and we're making rules up on the fly, with Elden Ring counting, but Shadow of Liberty, for Cyberpunk, that doesn't count. Why are we just creating things just for the sake of creating things? I don't get it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.